Ladies and gentlemen of the press, you're welcome to the NBA National Secretariat. And let me start by thanking you for honoring our invitation to this press conference. We thought it was a matter of national importance that we have this press conference this afternoon to discuss a very disturbing issue which came up last night. The NBA has had to issue a press release, or they also thought that having a face-to-face engagement with the press would also be much more apposite in the circumstance we have found ourselves. I refer to the notice by the police which came out last night informing the public of the purported decision of the police to resume or reactivate the police policy on tinted glass approval. Now the policy first became known to the public in April, and it was extended to commence on October 1st. Now, because of our belief that this policy was unconstitutional, was unlawful, the NBA went to court. And through the section on public interest and development law, SPIDO, and also some of our members, and our NEC resolved also to support these lawsuits. And the court in Warri ordered that the status quo be maintained. And consequent upon that, the police reached out to us and we had an engagement with the police where all the parties agreed that that policy implementation be stopped. So what we await the outcome of the legal challenge to the same. And before I continue, I would like to say a few things. We believe that the National Assembly lacks power to make that law, pursuant to which the police issued the policy. We also believe that, assuming without considering that the Nigerian police force has the power to, the National Assembly had the power to make that law, and that the policy given by the police as a regulation was lawful, that it was also ultra vires the police to make it, and that it was a money-making venture by the police. First of all, let me start by noting the Nigerian police force is a law enforcement agency. It is not one meant to generate revenue. And it is more worrisome that the policy implementation requires that the money be paid into a private account. There is no indication that this is being done as a public-private initiative, which will require that the concession agency will give a concession. There is no indication as to the transparency. There is no indication as to what happened to the earlier permits given by the police. And assuming it is, according to the police, for security reasons that they are doing this, what happened to the validity of the earlier permits granted by the police? Why do you have to renew it? And we believe that the police is setting up members of the police and empowering policemen on the street and on the roads to extort money from civilians and harass them. And we also believe that the purported notice of resumption is a calculated attempt by the police to make life very difficult for people this festive period by claiming that the resumption will be by 2nd January 2026. The police is simply saying, rush to get the so-called tint permit. So Nigerians who are already growing under harsh economic conditions, who are trying to feed their family, and those who are trying to find ways to travel to their villages and other places for the festive season, would have to accommodate the extortionate rate for obtaining this. And those who have tried to say that even the official fee is not enough. You have to also pay third parties to be able to get this. And our question is, if it is a crime-fighting measure by the police or policy by the police, and not a money revenue-making one as we contend it is, and as it is indeed, why can't this data be obtained at the point of renewal of your vehicle particulars, which involves the police, the customs, the state security service, and the licensing authority? Why is the IG so interested in compelling members of the public to pay money into a private account? And there's a lot of opacity. How did they arrive at the amount being paid? How is this money being spent and shared? If it is for public purposes, why is it not being paid into federal government account through a TSA account? And we think that Nigerians should rise up to condemn this. The police should focus on protecting the lives of the people, not making off their back. The people are already suffering. But above all, as a professional association whose motto is promoting the rule of law, we think that they have action by the police under the IGP, Inspector General of Police, Egbetoku, flies in the face of judicial proceedings involving the police. It does not matter whether there is an injunction or not. The police ought to await that outcome to which they are represented by a counsel. And they are represented by a senior advocate who gave court an undertaking that police would not do anything. And we hope and believe that it is not the lawyer who has advised them that they can resume this collection while the matter is pending in court. Nigerians are suffering enough, and the police should not add to their problems. Police should not add to the difficulty business that people will experience while traveling on the road for the festive season. We need to stop this, and we need to be guided by the rule of law. I need to remind the police that the police will benefit more from a peaceful and orderly society, that the police will stand to benefit more from a society where people respect judicial proceedings and allow the courts to determine between two contending parties. And it will be unlawful and indeed a brazen act by the police to insist on proceeding with this collection. More so after we had a roundtable meeting and agreed to suspend this. But beyond that, the police must be partners in progress and not have anything to do with any situation or thing that imposes hardship on the people. And we thought we should have this conversation with you gentlemen of the media. To my immediate right is Abdul Mohammed Essen, who was part of that meeting. In case my recollection of what took place that day is wrong, he would correct me. And also the Assistant General Secretary Barnabas Ehe Henry. But we thought we should have this conversation because it has very negative perception for our society and the police. And we should not tolerate such a thing. And the police should allow people to enjoy their season and leave anything about tinted approval. And if it is indeed to secure the lives of the people, there must be more creative ways of protecting the people and ensuring the security of the people without imposing further financial hardship on the people. And also doing it at a time that members of the public who may need to travel, who may need to put their vehicles on the road, will be harassed, extorted money, have their movement impeded, and oftentimes may be impounded by overzealous policemen on the road, who may not distinguish even between the so-called takeoff time of January 2nd. It's a time to say no. And we're also calling on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, to call the Inspector General of Police to order. We've also, as at this moment, delivered a letter to the Office of the Attorney General, asking the Attorney General to also write to the police to cease and desist from this unlawful activity, which does not portray the country in a good light and imposes unnecessary hardship on the people. This must stop.
We would like to put it on record. We have said this before, and we'll say it again. We'd like to put it on record. At no point did any court restrain the Nigeria Police Force from enforcing the tinted glass permit policy. At no point. What we have out there is people misinterpreting that last court paper that came out. That injunction talked about maintaining status quo. I don't want to go into technicalities, but it talked about maintaining status quo. As at the time that order was given, the status quo as at then was enforcement, not pre-enforcement. Enforcement was ongoing, and the court said maintain status quo. In fact, the court stated specifically that the request, the prayer of that lawyer that came to court seeking that it should be stopped would not be granted yet. It stated there, the document is out there. So the status quo was to continue with the enforcement, which was already on ground. But we had a meeting with NBA where the IGP decided to tow the path of care, the path of listening and being concerned, and he gave that directive that the tinted glass permit policy be suspended. So that suspension was not based on any court order. It was based on the Nigeria Police Force being responsible and being responsive to the yearnings of the people, being responsive to the appeal by the NBA. So, and when we announced that suspension, there was no time frame to it. At no point did we say it would be from so time. We just gave its time then. In fact, we're hoping that the court case would have reached a logical conclusion so that we would know where to go. If you remember that statement, we said it's being suspended to give Nigerians room to regularize their documentation and to also await the outcome of the court. But something has been happening. The court case has been dragging. And in that period, people now, criminal elements now confidently use these tinted vehicles to perpetrate crime. You might not know, we know because we gather information, we gather intelligence, and we maintain crime statistics. So I can tell you that. And just 2 weeks ago in Edo State, this is a verifiable fact. You can go out there to check it out. In Edo State, Benin City, 2 weeks ago, the police tried to stop a Lexus SUV with fully tinted vehicles. They refused to stop, and there was a pursuit. And upon stopping this vehicle, boxing them into a corner, the police approached, and the next thing was for the occupants of that vehicle to open fire on the police officer. He died instantly, an inspector of police. They were able to do this easily because the vehicle was fully tinted. You couldn't see from outside that they were carrying arms. That and many other cases. So the mandate of the police is to protect life and property. We would not fold our arms and watch things degenerate. We'll do what needs to be done. So, like I said earlier, there is no clear court order. There is no court order at all restraining the police from enforcing this. And since the case is still ongoing, and in that period, this is causing more criminality, we will do the right thing to start enforcing this permit policy until the court's case can be concluded. So until the court makes a clear pronouncement, we will continue enforcement of this tinted permit policy. Contempt. I don't know what that, I know what contempt is, but we are yet to be served any paper. So we won't act on what you have just told us today. When the papers get to us, we have a legal department. In fact, it has been upgraded to a directorate. We have a legal directorate. It's headed by an Assistant Inspector General of Police. So once the papers come, we would respond accordingly. But for now, it's hearsay, so I wouldn't talk about hearsay. The money is being accrued from this is going into private pockets. I've answered this question several times, that this is a departure from the old tinted permit system where everything was manual, where everything was paper-based. This time around, you are going to a secure website. For those who know a thing or two about the internet, for you to operate a website or a database where you have people's confidential information, phone numbers, NIN, house address, date of birth, you need extra layer of security. They don't come free. They don't come cheap either. So everything is online. There's a database. Your information is going in there. Do not forget that for Nigerians abroad who want to get tinted permit for their cars in Nigeria, because they need their relatives to drive these cars, they have to be the one to submit their biometrics. And the system is so advanced and sophisticated such that you can be abroad and submit your biometrics, your picture, it can scan your face, your fingerprint. This is the kind of advanced technology that is being deployed. They don't come free, neither do they come cheap. And yearly, if you know a thing or two about security certificates, they come, you renew them yearly. You don't buy any security certificates, your SSL, your firewalls. You don't buy, well, for some, it might be one-off payments, but for many others, you renew them yearly. So we are protecting the information of Nigerians with these advanced systems. And these systems require maintenance. So like I said before, I'm going to say it again, the money is being charged is to run that database, to keep it going. It's not a money-making venture, it's not a revenue-generating drive. It is to ensure that there is peace, there is safety and security for Nigerians. I don't know if I've answered everything about these tint permits that have been asked. Um,